I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long week while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be along. Very empty, I hope and pray that
And welcome to the Liberal Oasis radio show. This is Bill Scher, and can you smell the bag day? Glorious bag day today. Why can't bag day and its nemesis buy nothing day, day after Thanksgiving, why can't those 2 days get along? Those two blood rivals. Why can't you go out to bag day today and enjoy that 20% discount at local downtown Northampton stores and also take a stand against materialism and capitalism the day after Thanksgiving and buy nothing day? Why? I don't understand. I plan to do both myself. And that's not just because I'll be in a turkey coma after Thanksgiving. Recently, in my workplace, I was asked to provide for a bio my favorite quote. And I'm the kind of guy that when you're asked for what's your favorite X, I never know what it is. I got to think about that for 2 weeks. But I decided, at least for the Bush era, this is my favorite quote. This is George W. Bush, October 4th, 2001.
And there's no doubt in my mind, not one doubt in my mind, that we will fail.
Never has a more accurate thing been said. The man sometimes calls it just right. And when I think about the quintessential Bush failures, there's really two. Number one is the failure of Iraq in responding to the terrorist attack of 9/11 to go precisely where the terrorists are not and make a problem 100 times worse. So failure number one. And the flip side to that failure is Pakistan, where the ringleader actually is, and nothing was really done. And most notably, that the stated basis of the entire Bush foreign policy, the promotion of democracy, in most recent days has been thoroughly exposed to be bunk, to be wholly insincere, to be bankrupt, to never have really been the main focus of Bush's interests. This is Pervez Musharraf himself. This is talking to the New York Times on their website, NewYorkTimes.com, NYTimes.com. This is what Pervez Musharraf had to say about why he has shut down the independent media in his country.
As far as the media is concerned, media is independent, and while we have taken certain action against the media, because we want to bring some responsibility into them, because they were not following any code of
conduct is what he was saying there. They were not being responsible. They were not following the Pakistani code of conduct, so we had to take action. Why do I feel that when George Bush heard that, he said, "You can do that"? I just tried to intimidate and manipulate them. I never thought I could just flat out shut them down. Genius, Pervez. And Pervez also said, this is what the state of emergency, saying the word emergency here, that's what the state of emergency is all about.
Emergency is not to disallow free and fair elections. Emergency is to ensure that the elections go in an undisturbed manner.
Bush again saying, why couldn't I do that? I just had to work through the Supreme Court to get illegitimately elected. I didn't know you got to declare a state of emergency and just cut to the chase. Genius. So that is the failure of his Pakistan policy writ large. And this issue came up in the Democratic presidential debate on Thursday. And I think in all the post-debate analysis, you probably heard nothing about this. There was actually, I think, a relatively substantive discussion about foreign policy goals and objectives, how that pertains to Pakistan, what we should do now. And I'm quite confident you have not heard any of that because no one's really discussing it. But I want to go through what they have said because it's very interesting. So this is Joe Biden, what he would have done with Pakistan if he was president, what he would do today.
And you have to move from military aid to giving the middle class there. The middle class is overwhelmingly the majority. They get no connection with the United States. We have to significantly increase our economic aid relative to education, relative to NGOs, relative to all those things that make a difference in the lives of ordinary people over there, and not be doing it through the military side.
And what he said before that was, we cannot have a Musharraf policy. We need a Pakistan policy. When you're actually for democracy, you don't pick and choose your favorite leaders. You engage the whole country. You engage the middle class, instead of propping up someone who is not democratic and undermining what American values are all about. Bill Richardson made a similar point at the debate.
Politics of Pakistan, Islamic parties get maybe 15% of the vote. I mean, so this threat that, revolutionary elements are going to overtake him, if he has a fair election, and you take his party and Benazir Bhutto's party, and you get the military, I believe that moderate forces can win. So if we're on the side of democracy and human rights, and we're on the side of Musharraf having elections, then U.S. interests are preserved, and the Pakistani people have a democracy.
See, this whole notion that it's Musharraf or bin Laden running the country has been exposed as false. He is not fighting radical Islamic terrorists in this state of emergency. He's fighting lawyers and judges who are trying to uphold the rule of law in the Pakistani constitution. Richardson is recognizing this and saying, if we actually stood consistently for democracy, Pakistan would be in a much better place today. Barack Obama, I think, capped this off very nicely with what this says about American foreign policy in general.
Look, we paid $10 billion over the last 7 years, and we had two goals: deal with terrorism and restore democracy, and we've gotten neither. And Joe and Bill are exactly right on this. Pakistan's democracy would strengthen our battle against extremists. The more we see repression, the more there are no outlets for how people can express themselves and their aspirations, the worse off we're going to be. And the more anti-American sentiment there's going to be.
Again, I think all those were great points. Now, Senator Clinton tried to say something similar after that.
There's absolutely a connection between a democratic regime and heightened security for the United States. That's what's so tragic about this situation. After 9/11, President Bush had a chance to chart a different course, both in Pakistan and in Afghanistan, and could have been very clear about what our expectations were. We are now in a bind. And it is partly, not completely, but partly a result of the failed policies of the Bush administration. So where we are today means that we have to say to President Musharraf, look, this is not in your interests either.
So it sounds like that she agrees with the other three, that democracy should have been paramount, that we should have had a different approach to Musharraf, and that this was a failure on Bush's part. But this is what she had to say in a previous debate in August.
But I think it is a very big mistake to telegraph that and to destabilize the Musharraf regime, which is fighting for its life against the Islamic extremists who are in bed with al-Qaeda and Taliban.
Now, that was in response to Barack Obama's pledge that if there was actionable intelligence in the Pakistani border region against Osama and al-Qaeda, and Musharraf wouldn't act, that he would. Now, that to me is by no means contradictory with saying that we should be supporting democracy. Having a military campaign in that border region that is targeted at actual terrorists, that is not a cover for any sort of imperialism, not a cover for implanting permanent bases in a country a la Iraq, but is actually targeted to someone that is what actually attacked us, that's totally legit. And for Hillary Clinton to then say in response to that, don't do that, it's going to upset our favorite dictator, Pervez Musharraf, well, that undermines the whole notion of what our foreign policy is supposed to be about. And as Barack Obama said on Thursday, that undermines our interest globally. That undermines stability and security. So I think Clinton needed to be called out trying to have this both ways. I should also add that Chris Dodd and John Edwards have also said supportive comments about Musharraf either on Thursday or earlier. So there is a clear fault line on this issue. I'm not saying it's the absolute only issue, but I think it is a huge issue as far as what you can expect from these different people's potential foreign policies. When we come back, we'll be talking to Air America's Sam Cedar. They're at the founding of Air America, doing Cedar on Sundays now, and running airamerica.com. This has been Bill Scher on the Liberal Oasis radio show. Back with Sam Cedar after this.